Briar Hollow, a name that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. Even the name sounded eerie. The village was old, steeped in history and mystery. Ancient oaks with gnarled branches formed a wall around it, as if protecting it from the outside world or perhaps keeping something in. Their leaves whispered secrets on the wind, secrets that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. Secrets no one dared to speak aloud for fear of what might happen if they did. The forest was the village's heart, a living, breathing entity that pulsed with an ancient energy. It was also its doom, a dark presence that loomed over the village like a shadow. The villagers whispered about the forest at night, their voices hushed and fearful. They said it was alive, that it had a mind of its own and a will to match. They claimed it stole your voice if you dared to enter after dark, a chilling thought that kept most people away. No one dared to venture into its depths once the sun dipped below the horizon. No one except Evelyn. She was different, drawn to the forest by a force she couldn't explain. She felt a connection to it, a pull that was both terrifying and exhilarating. As she stepped into the shadows, the whispers grew louder, wrapping around her like a shroud. She knew she was risking everything, but she couldn't turn back now. The forest had called to her, and she had answered. What secrets would it reveal? Only time would tell. Evelyn refused to believe the stories. Superstitions, her logical mind scoffed. Her brother Sam had vanished into the woods 3 nights ago. He had gone in after sunset. He had always been a restless soul. Fear gnawed at her heart, but her resolve was stronger. The villagers warned her not to follow. They pleaded with her to let the forest claim its due. Evelyn wouldn't listen. She would find Sam, even if it meant facing the shadows herself. The forest welcomed her with a chilling silence. The kind of silence that seemed to swallow every sound, every whisper of the wind, every rustle of leaves. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting, watching. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Each step she took seemed to stir the very essence of the forest, releasing a musty, ancient aroma that clung to her senses. The mist swirled around her feet, a ghostly presence that seemed to guide her deeper into the unknown. The last rays of sunlight faded, swallowed by the dense canopy above. The forest transformed, the vibrant greens and browns of the day giving way to the shadowy greys and blacks of twilight. It was a world in transition, caught between the light of day and the darkness of night. Darkness descended, thick and suffocating. It was a darkness that seemed to have a life of its own, wrapping around her like a shroud. Every tree, every branch, every shadow seemed to reach out, eager to pull her into the abyss. Evelyn's heart pounded against her ribs. She gripped the lantern tighter, her knuckles white. The small circle of light it cast was her only anchor in the sea of darkness. She could feel the weight of the forest pressing in on her, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked in every shadow. The path was gone, lost to the undergrowth. Thorns tore at her clothes, eager to claim her as the forest had claimed Sam. Each step was a battle, each movement a struggle against the relentless grip of the forest. The underbrush seemed to conspire against her, tangling around her legs, pulling her back, trying to hold her in place. Still, she pushed forward, driven by hope and fear in equal measure. Hope that she would find Sam, that she would not be too late. Fear that the forest would consume her, that she would become just another lost soul in its endless depths. But she could not stop. She would not stop. She had to keep moving, had to keep fighting for Sam, for herself, for the chance to see the light of day once more. A twig snapped. Evelyn froze, her breath catching in her throat. The sound came again, closer this time. Something moved in the undergrowth. Her blood ran cold. Then a voice. Evelyn. The voice was a rasping whisper, a voice she knew. Evelyn, is that you? It was Sam. Relief washed over her. He was alive. But the relief was short-lived. Something wasn't right. The voice was wrong, distorted, twisted. Section 5. A glimpse of the unknown. "Sam?" Evelyn called out, her voice trembling. "Where are you?" The undergrowth rustled again. A figure emerged from the darkness. It looked like Sam, his build, his clothes, but his face was hidden in the shadows. Evelyn took a step closer. Her heart pounded in her ears. She held the lantern higher, desperate to see her brother's face. "Sam, it's me," she whispered. "It's Evelyn." Section 6. Trapped in green despair. The figure took a step closer. The lantern light flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the trees. Evelyn's breath hitched. The face staring back at her wasn't Sam's. It was a grotesque mockery of it, twisted in a silent scream. The creature lunged. Evelyn screamed, stumbling backward. The lantern tumbled from her grasp, plunging them into darkness. She scrambled back, her heart pounding in her chest. Panic surged through her. She was trapped. Section 7. The forest's grim embrace. Evelyn ran. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat a desperate plea for survival. The darkness of the forest seemed to swallow her whole, the shadows dancing menacingly around her. She didn't know where she was going. Every direction looked the same, a maze of trees and underbrush that offered no escape. Panic surged through her veins, clouding her thoughts and making her movements frantic. She just knew she had to get away. The sense of being hunted was overwhelming, a primal fear that drove her forward despite the pain and exhaustion. The forest seemed to close in around her, the trees reaching out with skeletal branches, eager to ensnare her. The gnarled limbs twisted and turned, creating a labyrinth of obstacles that slowed her down. Thorns tore at her skin, leaving trails of fire in their wake. Each scratch was a reminder of the relentless pursuit, the unseen predator that lurked just beyond her sight. She could hear the creature behind her. Its footsteps were heavy, each one a thunderous reminder of the danger she was in. The sound of snapping twigs and rustling leaves filled the air, a symphony of terror that spurred her on. Its rasping breath echoed through the trees, each exhalation a promise of her doom. The creature's breath was labored, a guttural sound that sent shivers down her spine. It was close, too close. Evelyn's foot caught on a root, sending her sprawling to the ground. Pain shot through her ankle as she fell, the impact knocking the wind out of her. She gasped for air, her mind racing as she tried to get back up. She lay there, her chest heaving, hope draining away. The forest seemed to close in even tighter, the darkness pressing down on her. She could feel the creature's presence looming over her, its shadow casting a pall over her last vestiges of hope. Desperation clawed at her, but her body refused to move, paralyzed by fear and exhaustion. The forest's grim embrace tightened, and Evelyn knew she was out of time. Section 8. A fate worse than death. The creature loomed over her, its eyes glowing with an eerie green light seemed to pierce her soul. Evelyn closed her eyes, bracing herself for the end, but the end didn't come. Instead, she felt a cold hand on her arm. A rasping voice whispered in her ear. "Don't worry, Evelyn," the voice hissed. The voice that sounded like Sam but wasn't. "You're home now. The forest will never let you go." Section 9. The whispers grow louder. Evelyn vanished that night, just like Sam. The villagers found her lantern by the edge of the woods. They shook their heads, their faces etched with grim resignation. Another soul claimed by the darkness. Another voice silenced by the ancient woods. The whispers started again, whispers about the forest's hunger, whispers about the creatures that lurked in the shadows, whispers about the voices that called out in the night, mimicking the ones they had loved and lost. Section 10. Never enter the woods. Briar Hollow remained, a village forever shrouded in shadow and fear. The forest still stood, a silent, watchful guardian, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked within its depths. And the villagers? They continued to whisper the ancient warning, the warning passed down through generations, the warning that kept them safe. Never enter the woods at night, for the forest is hungry and it feeds on silence.